No, dude, more bubbly. You should not have bubbly. A person who loves bubbly and expect more bubbly. Is we back?
Yeah, we back in the building. Oh, man.
I'm gonna finish this point because we're trying to get the Warrior Princess's hand. But the point I was making is that there's a lot of films that we can show that shows that what we're talking about is not specific. I get that word all the time because S and C, fuck it, doesn't get along too well. But my point is that I do not want any Black American woman or any Black American man to look into the mirror and blame themselves for the situation that they are in. We must understand that poverty is something that we all have to deal with. Whether we affluent or not, as a Black American, poverty is an issue. And there are different strategies that people who come from poverty or people who are associated with poverty or people who have a propensity to be in impoverished environments adopt. That's what How to Marry a Millionaire comes in with Lauren Bacall and a couple of other stars, as well as the movie I was talking about, how Payment on Demand with Betty Davis. It's important as we go throughout this discussion to make sure that the gender truce isn't just narrowed down on African American men and women as far as being quote unquote toxic, but we narrow down on what's important for the group as a whole instead of like I want to get to a point where we're not pointing fingers at each other. We're at a point like, yeah, baby, what did they do to you today? I know you need to relax. What did they do to you today? Now, we need to have this conversation. We need to debrief. Because I want to know how they changed their racist shit today. I want to know what racist shit they did to you today. No, you need to tell me. I know you need to debrief and breathe. But tell me what racist shit they did to you today. For two reasons. One, so I don't blame you for being angry. Two, so I know what I look out for.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that. That's why we wait for her to call in.
Cool beans.
The racist shit that they did to do today.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to, again, we kind of in this together. Unfortunately, when we talk about family units, on the flip side of that, you have to understand that white people are also family units. And they can only go but so far in terms of what it is most people will call activism or being able to intervene when you're experiencing something as a Black woman or man is, even though they're oppressed in that sense, it's a different type of oppression. And they have to go against their actual own family, which causes a rift. And this is also part of why I wanted to have a conversation about, calling the truce in terms of
I'm listening.
Are going up against a legacy.
Say that one more time because it don't get said enough.
We are going up against a legacy.
Thank you.
A multi-generational backed legacy. And what we have to begin to understand in this is that I understand that there are gender disparities within our society, but a lot of people don't like to talk about the political side of it. When we do delve into that, we have to begin to understand that, again, this is the first political unit. They preserve it. They preserve it for a reason. Because, and I'm not even just saying white people, I would say continental Africans and,
I would say non-ADOS.
Very non-ADOS communities understand that you have to be family-oriented first. And they do that, and they prioritize their people in that way and prioritize their legacy and their lineage in that way. And I think what we have to do is get to understanding, like, look, if you're going to say something, allow it to at least be, create a rubric.
I agree.
A rubric in the sense that, because I hear a lot of black women say, oh, well, black men this and black men that and black men this and black men that. Do you have any statistics or data to back that? Do you have, because what we have to do is, again, out for the overall community, we have to begin to understand that, like, in terms of this whole gender war, we have to stop using anecdotal evidence.
And individual evidence.
Have I encountered myself individual bad women? Yes. Have I encountered individual good women? Yes.
Absolutely.
But what happens is with black men is that we can say the same, or most women can say the same, and I please call in, like the video, share the video, comment, because a lot of black women can say the same as they have them in their families and so on and so forth. But what they do is they refer to the worst parts of the group. Nobody talks about the men who are doing what they're supposed to. Statistics show that black men are more progressive than any other men in all areas.
Because we grow, and I want to jump in there. Before we are men, we are boys, and we are boys to black mothers. So we see how black mothers are treated and black women are treated, and we don't get enough respect for how much hurt. I'll say this: black men also are quiet about how much hurt we carry. We don't want to talk about the hurt that we carry. We don't want to talk about the pain that we carry. But I'm sorry, go ahead, because you are totally right. Especially with the myth of the black father or the absentee black father. There's literally, I'm not a huge fan of white liberals, but when they get it right, they get it right. About how that is a myth. A lot of black men are involved in their children's life. They want to be involved in their children's life. But the problem becomes, and the problem is that we have the men ain't trash narrative overcoming that. I'm listening though.
And that's the thing. How do we overcome that? Because that's where the truth starts. That's where the truth begins in terms of, look, black women. I understand y'all women with trash black women. But please, please, please.
We want to go to the negative side. We've been very positive. We want to
Well,
go
on
to
the
the
black
side. No, on friendships. I told you they are hate groups. A lot of these friendships are hate groups. And what I mean by
Delve
hate
into
groups, all right, cool.
Go ahead, do you? Because I want to hear it. Because I want to understand where you're.
I'm parched. Before I become petty, I'm
Hydrate.
sure I'll wait my listen. Yeah, here we go.
Hydrate, nigga, hurry up.
This is what I mean by their hate groups. They're hate groups because you got one person inside of the group who was embittered by a relationship they were in, and so now they're going to every single example of how someone can be mistreated becomes that person's contribution to the conversation. Let's take how guys, we like to do things around our activities. Let's say we playing basketball. Basketball is over how we used to do around our aunt's house, right? Mm-hmm. We finish playing basketball. We sitting back, we chilling, we relaxing. I bring up, you know how my relationships are. They're trash. I don't even call them relationships. I am horrible at picking romantic partners. But that said, I have also heard a number of people, especially I'm talking about immature people, who will do trash things to other people and get upset that happened to them. Perfect example. There was this young person, right, who was telling me about how someone else was abusing them because they used them for sex. But this same person will not commit to anyone who wants emotional intimacy. They want emotional intimacy themselves, but they clown people who are open, honest, genuine, and integral. So because that person does not want to mature themselves, they surround themselves with people who have examples and stories that reinforce so-and-so isn't trash. This person is trash. Men are trash. Men don't do this. Let me get away from the vagueness. Perfect example. We'll have a dude that call a woman a thought, right? Or call her a hoe. We all listening to his story. We've been here before. Most men been here before. We listen to the story. The woman tells the guy, I'm out here. I don't want a relationship right now. I'm looking for fun.
Mm-hmm.
The dude goes like, okay, cool. I'm with that, right? So the woman goes, cool. We out here for fun. We having fun. Let's have fun. She decides, or they decide to get physically intimate. He gets attached, right? He's emotionally attached to her. She was upfront with him. I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm out here having fun. Never did she say we wanted to be exclusive. Never did she say we wanted to be long-term or so forth. But because he thought that he could change her mind, he gets upset and takes that one example as this is how all women are. Because that one experience of there was a woman who was honest with him, who told him, I am not ready to commit to anyone. I am out here for fun. And because in his mindset, oh, I can change her. He didn't change her because no one can change anyone. It came to a point where he's now upset, and that any woman that he is brought up, or any example of a woman just not understanding men, because it's really hard to understand ourselves, let alone communicate ourselves to someone else. He used that as an example of how all women are bad. So if the men in that friend group don't sit down and tell him, like, look, son, you had a bad relationship. You did that to yourself. She told you that she wasn't looking for nothing, no commitment. Didn't you get the cheats? You got the cheats. It's like, so where did she lie to you at? She didn't. But this is where the hate group comes in, because he's not the only one that had the experience. A couple of other people in that group had the experience. Now they begin to be bash that woman and bash her name because of the one example brought up by, oh, she said she wasn't ready for a commitment. Oh, so she's a hoe. She's a thought. Let's slut shame her. Let's say that she isn't ready to be committed. And on the other side is when women talk about womanizers. It's like we can't have dick appointments and call men womanizers. You can't have dick appointments and also call me a womanizer. Because if I recognize that you're only treating me as a physical object and you want no emotional commitment, and I just go smooth, cool, I'm with it. You don't want no commitment. I want commitment, but you're not the one that's willing to commit to me. That's fine. So what happens is people go back to their friend group and they start talking trash to their friend group about the other person. And when they talk trash to the friend group about the other person, what happens is that everyone begins to hate that other person because of one situation. And they become hate groups. They literally begin to trash other people. And how do I know it's a hate group? Men are trash. Men ain't shit. Bitches and hoes. Hoes over bros. It's like anything that becomes pop culture, that means that enough people are doing these things behind closed doors. And most of the things that become popular is hate. Look at how when they said, who was it? Passcode and Coca-Cola became the best marketers out of competing. These friend groups are hate groups. And a lot of people inside these friend groups create these social hierarchies. Well, this person is out of my league. It's like, do you know how many attractive women there are in the world, bro? Like, there's literally more attractive women in the world than you can ever bust a nut out. There's so many attractive women in the world. But just because that person is attractive and you have a good rapport doesn't mean that that person is the person for you. But I'm telling you, a lot of these group texts, a lot of these friend groups are literally hate groups. Because I'll end on this one. How many friend groups talk about growth and positivity outside, not just for themselves, but people outside of the friend group as well?
Because Beyonce got a whole song. My friends is better than your friends. That's some gang shit. I call girl nights game nights. I ain't gonna give a fuck. Man, I've been to girl nights. You've been to girl nights. You know they be plotting on each other. You know they be calling out ops. Then be thinking, oh, they just walking around. They didn't feel this. Is like, nah, son. There's a lot of girl groups I've been in there. More thuggish. I'm not a part of girl code. Don't invite me no more. I'm serious. I'm tired of the emotional dumping. Don't call me. Because if you call me, I'm going to show up and I'm going to talk shit.
So you don't want to be part of the coalition?
What coalition? Of hate? I don't like hate. Hate gives me lines. Hate, I want crow's feet and not worry lines. Meaning, I want lines right here, but not lines right here. I don't want a life of worry. I want a life of smiles.
But so I agree in a lot of ways that a lot of friend groups are hate groups. That's an interesting phrase. I love putting that in terms of how they kind of operate, in that most of them aren't necessarily uplifting, and that they do perpetuate a lot of the gender bashing between both genders. Which I don't necessarily support in any way, shape, or form. I don't necessarily like seeing Black women being talked about in a certain way, whether you're casting them as angry, belligerent, and so on and so forth. And I don't like Black men being cast in a particular way.
That's again, you understand the weight of talking about each other so negative.
Yeah, and that's, again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, that's my biggest point, or want to come to the conversation, is like, look, we have to stop publicly, because like I always say is, social media especially are political and corporate tools. So understand that our conversations that follow, just earlier, or I believe last night, Twitter put out some comments that if you wish death on Donald Trump in terms of this whole COVID situation and him contracting it, allegedly, if you wish death on him, you will be dealt with and handled.
You have to be.
So
that's illegal.
I agree. But what people have to understand about that is that goes into the idea of narrative protection. Because even though, again, Donald Trump may be a white supremacist and all of the things that we understand that he is, America, as a white supremacist nation, understands that they have to protect that narrative. And what I'm asking for on Agenda Truce is that, before you run to any social media with like the Twitter fingers or any of that, or any of these fingers, understand what you're doing and making the life harder for your fellow Black woman or Black man. It's hard for me to navigate in rooms and spaces where the consensus is Black men ain't shit, or Black men are dangerous, or Black heterosexual men do this, or Black heterosexual men do that. It makes it that much harder for me to have a conversation or go into a room. Like I used to have conversations, again, I wear glasses or wear certain things
to disarm people. Right?
To disarm people. Because I am a heterosexual Black male. And I'm asking both sides, males, please, when you start talking about bitches and thoughts and all of that nonsense, understand that is, one, human nature, and that women have their prerogatives to do that. We do not have to if you don't want to deal with that type of woman, don't deal with that type of woman.
And don't speak on her.
Don't speak on her don't speak on it publicly. What you talk about, again, I'm not trying to regulate what people talk about in the confines of their own home, because I'm not trying to be a tyrant in that way.
I am.
I get it. No, I get it, because again, you need to change your conversations because of your perspective of people begins to morph with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is, on the first level, first step, let's master one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not disparage each other in public.
If
a Black woman was late, let her be late. We both know what we go through.
We don't know why she late.
Exactly.
At least
But
ask her.
as another black person, let's understand what other African American people go through. Let's understand it. Let's not get into, oh, well, these over sweeping generalizations about black men like, oh, they're dangerous. How, Sway? Don't you you'll understand that your sons and your daughters have to deal with these narratives.
That's what I was getting to.
Understand that if you don't understand anything else. When you say something, if as a black man and a black woman, go ahead.
A lot of people don't understand education because they aren't in the education field. They don't understand what it really means to be a teacher. Well, go ahead, I'm listening.
If you are a black woman or black man, understand that you saying that perpetuates a whole cycle and narrative that allows people to condemn and indict your child based on legacy, a historical narrative that goes back generations, hundreds of years, in terms of what it is they have predisposed about African Americans and the larger black community, about what we do and what we're predisposed to do.
Repeat that one term.
Predisposed to do.
What?
Disposed to do.
And that means that it is what?
That we are highly likely and intended to do so because of based on a certain amount of factors, and in this case, our race.
And that leads to what kind of consequence? Policy and bad outcomes. It leads to the Breonna Taylor situations. It leads to the Tamir Rice situations. Because again, Tamir Rice is shot down because he's a little black boy. Because the narrative is little black boys, black men are dangerous. Breonna Taylor doesn't get her just due because black women are angry. Black women are mouthy. Black women are all of these things. When in fact, to your point, in most cases, most women are like that, but most people are like that. Mouthy, disrespectful, entitled, and don't want to necessarily do what is necessary to get what it is they're asking for. Yes, I'm jumping around because you and I both have worked in district government. And this is one of the things about the DMV, and I'm going to say this, the DMV is some of the most entitled residents I have ever dealt with in my life. And I jump in on that because you are hitting the nail on the head. I'm in education. I'm in the education environment, I should say, because I don't like to be in education. Because being a teacher in K through 12 is more so being a social worker that has a responsibility to teach, right? And this is where I wish Quan was here at this moment to kind of chime in. That's just me saying, I miss you, Quan. I miss you. I understand you're doing something important, but you are part of the Gilded Sages. I miss you. Outside of that, though, it's so important and imperative because what happens is that going back to our things, right? You got a Cardi B. We talk about Cardi B. I love Cardi B. When Cardi B came out, I was like, yes, here's why. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Here's why I love Cardi B. I felt like Cardi B was one of those young women who got passed over all the time. Passed over and passed around. Right? And people don't like this about Cardi, but Cardi tells the truth. And she tells the truth.
That part I do like about her.
But she tells the truth in a way in which us hood niggas, and people don't think I'm a hood nigga, but us hood niggas can respect. Raw, unvarnished, truth about human behavior. Even when Cardi talked about her exploitation of men, that was bold.
Lock her up.
That was brave.
You gotta be objective.
If we lock up Cardi, then we need to lock up Camilla. And if we lock up those two, we need to lock up a third of most women. Let's be real. No. And if we lock up a third of most women, we need to lock up half of niggas because they be lying about everything.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm with that.
We can't afford it. We know we can't afford it.
I'm conservative when I say that, I become the people who say, oh, you elitist. Oh, you this. Oh, but again, going back to the truce, what y'all want, black women? Y'all want black women? Y'all want black men who gonna come in and smack everybody that's doing illicit things that damage and harm the community? Or do y'all want to just say that y'all unprotected? Like, I get it. Like, but one half is like, look, my whole life, you know what I wanted to do? Just walk around. No, not even my whole life. You know what I wanted to do for the man as a job?
What?
Just be a slapper. And you know what a slap is?
They call that a whip.
Yeah, you know what a slap is?
Yes,
though?
I do.
Any nigga who walk in the room and just start talking some crazy shit.
Get him in line.
What you say?
Right
Right in your face. Hold on, what you say, her? Ah! Right there. Because what happens is,
high key, she would like that.
because I was hoping
I think she would like that.
look, I tried to express it.
If she could have an angry Luther,
Hey.
she would fucking love it.
I would cut my hair tomorrow just to be in there suited and booted up. Like, hold on, what you say? Hold on, you against what? Joe Biden, you said what? You said what does? Because you want to know what? I'm sick of it. Because a lot of people disrespect our community, and I know that people aren't necessarily positioned in a way to push back and do the things that they want to do, which is why, again, I'm here having a conversation because I don't want it to permeate any longer. Because again, we get nowhere, we get zero place with women, black women calling the men trash and then the men calling black
All
women
right.
trash.
Mhm.
It's, where do we get?
But let's get down to this point, right?
Okay.
And I agree with everything you said right there. Let's get down because we've been going over on this point. And please, we want y'all to call in. Please like, share, comment. Because it's not a discussion between us, it's a discussion amongst us.
It's bigger than us.
It's way bigger than us. They take Toni Morrison and Bluest Eye,
I got the Witcher.coms up, so y'all in the breakout room, I'm gonna let you in ASAP. If you watching the video now, like the video, share, comment, please call in. I got the break rooms open because again, it's much larger than us, and this is a community issue. I just want it resolved in terms of, look, I hear black women and I hear black men, but let's move forward with the cream of the crop. That's what we gotta do.
This is almost
Go
like
ahead,
a time of the 10th argument, but let's go away from that.
Okay.
My thing is it's almost, but it's not there. But my thing is that let's get down to the guilt and shame.
Okay.
Right? You got Toni Morrison who writes The Bluest Eye.
Mm-hmm.
And Morrison in The Bluest Eye really explores a psychology of not being seen physically attractive because you don't have European standards. You don't have the 1A or the 1B hair. You don't have the fair skin. You don't have certain aspects that give you that economic advantage, that gives you that social advantage. So you may be, and because we all start young, you may be in your head processing, damn, I'm not cute enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard this a lot from non-ADOS women, I'm cute. And I'm going to say this as a quick aside. There's no woman pretty enough to make a man do what she wants him to do. There's no such thing, I'm pretty, I'm cute, therefore I should have my way. That doesn't work with men. It works with other women, it doesn't work with men. I don't give a damn pretty.
It work with feminized men.
I don't care about them. It doesn't, because feminized men, I want to add this caveat. Feminized men doesn't mean gay men.
Nope.
That doesn't mean gay at all. We're not talking about sexuality when we say feminized men. We're talking about psychology. Cute don't get nowhere with me. Because there's a lot of, there we go, attractive women who are trash. Who are absolute trash. We got a caller coming in. Thank you, caller.
Hold on, let me see.
Can we hear him? Caller, is you there? Are you muted? We can't hear you.
Connected to audio. You muted, man. You muted. Unmute yourself.
Okay, unmute. All right.
There.
You hear me?
Man, we need you in light. Turn on the car light, man. You ain't about to get locked up by the police. It's decent.
All right, hold on.
Cause
Okay, you see me now?
Yeah, we can.
All right. So we got someone that wants to chime in. I'm tired of getting
chime in
ad.
Let's peace, man.
Okay, so first off, guys, how you gonna have a whole gender conversation and not have the opposite sex in the room present to give their opinion?
Because it's COVID. We trying to be responsible.
I like it. Pivot. Thank you.
Hold the phone on her though, so that's why we want to call in. That's why we want to call in.
We've been begging.
No, speak your piece though. You got full floor. I look. Tell other women to call in. We want y'all to call in, but we ain't trying to get nobody sick, you know.
Badges.
We trying to have y'all out here on Trump mode.
Oh, I love that one. You
So
listen.
you guys made some very valid points. I will definitely say that. You know, just I missed some of them because we were driving, but I just wanted to chime in on one thing, and you know, the thing about commitment. So you know, I feel like, or the thing that the example that you had with one of your guy friends who was dating the girl who didn't want commitment, and she had been clear about that, and he still didn't understand. I think it's also the same way for females as well. Sometimes females are not we're not as bold in saying what we want when we want it in the beginning of a relationship, and so that can lead to, you know, miscommunications, which then lead to us wanting to bash, you know, men. And it's not all men. And, you know, I would say that my friend circle, my female friend circle, we definitely try not to, like, you know, make it a broad statement of, oh, all men are trash, all men are this, black men are this, black men are that. You know, we kind of look at it as a case by case point. So, you know, I definitely agree with that. We got to stop this, you know, bashing of the whole entire, you know, one sex or the other, because it leads us to nowhere, and it leads to the cycle of trauma continuing over and over and over again.
So let me ask you this. With that being said, I agree with everything you just said. What is it that you would add to in terms of what not only do you do, because you spoke to it a little bit in terms of, like you said, you push back in your own friend groups in terms of not letting sweeping generalizations exist. So what are you doing, if anything else outside of that? And what do you think both men and women can do to create this truce, create this environment where we can get to a point where gender war is not one of the conversations that are impeding us in terms of our political endeavors, our, you know, wealth building endeavors, and all of the things that we say we want to do as a community. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So basically, talking about going on your first point of what I do differently and what my friends do differently. I mean, it's just not generalizing. And the way that we not generalize is, again, we just look at it case by case. We understand that every single person, just like a man is a person, like every single man, female, we're all, like male, female, we're all single individual people, and we all have our individual stories, and we all have our individual struggles that we face, like, through our lives. So it's hard to say that all men are trash when, you know, we look at it like, are we attracting, what are we attracting? You know, Tesla said, you know, everything is about vibration. You have to be able to realize that maybe it's like look internally and say, maybe it's me that is attracting what I'm attracting. And is it the trauma? Like, am I seeking trauma bonds? Am I seeking that person that kind of shares the same pain as me, which in turn ends up making it harder in the relationship because we both are coming from wounded and damaged places. So it's like looking at it in a broader spectrum and not just saying like, well, all men are trash, you know. No, everybody goes through their own struggles. So that's where you have to look at the individual and also do your own self-reflection and say, is it me? And then to your second point, like, basically, I think that, I mean, it's kind of hard when it's to get out of that cycle of wanting to bash the other sex because of what they did to hurt you. And it's about growth. If you can't grow, you have to be able to, as individuals, you have to all as individuals be able to grow in order to look past that hurt that person dealt us and say, all right, I'm going to grow as a person. I'm going to spend time and work on myself. And I think once we all get to the point of working on ourselves, we can actually heal from the trauma, heal from the damages, and not just put all the blame on other people, namely the opposite sex.
Let me follow up with that one though. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. With that, because my whole thing is, I totally agree with everything you said, and I really, 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 really appreciate you calling in because we really do need your voice. My question is,
other women.
Yes, we do. My question is two-part. The first part is, speaking about trauma and trauma bonding, how vulnerable do you think the Black American community needs to be when we're entering relationships? And the second part of that is, how much of our friend group needs to really protect us from our bad behavior?
So vulnerability is, in the African American community, Black women, we are always touted as being so strong, to be strong. Some of the reasons why we don't get the medical treatment that we deserve and we need is because they don't believe our pain, because we're supposed to be, these African American women especially, are supposed to be so strong. So vulnerability, and Black men, you three are Black men, so you guys know about vulnerability as cisgendered Black men, no vulnerability, point blank, period.
Yeah.
So I hope that as we evolve as not only a people but as a culture and society, that kind of like toxic mentality gets shifted, and that we can start bringing some more vulnerability to the table. We can start being more vulnerable with, because if you don't have that vulnerability, if you don't put those walls down, you're literally butting heads. Yeah. Constantly. You're constantly butting heads because you're not trying to understand the other person in a more deeper way.
Mm-hmm.
The second part about friends, your tribe, your vibe attracts your tribe. As corny as that sounds, you got to be able to make sure that you have friends that are great mirrors to see past to see your bullshit and to call you on your bullshit, especially when it comes to relationships. Like my best friend and I, we've been through our share of toxic relationships, and we both know each other so well that we're like, girl, you doing something toxic. He toxic, girl. He just, I mean, your behavior of allowing him to be toxic is like terrible, and is a terrible thing in itself. But being able to have that honest and open feedback with your friend circle, you can't have people who always are behind you, rooting you on, even with your bad decisions. You can't have that, because then it will lead you down to the path of destruction, and it is not a good path at all to be on.
This is how we needed.
Nah,
I hear you.
yeah. I wish
Just that
we
same
I
energy
wish
when
we
you
had people here. I wish we
What's Paul saying?
keep that same energy when you get mad at me.
Oh.
I cry.
I'm not jumping in on that
Hold
one.
on, he said what?
Keep that same energy when you get mad at me.
Hey, look, man.
I'm not jumping in on that one.
I will.
I'm not.
Because in the end, we all people.
But we gonna be. Do we keep the same loving energy when they just tired and don't want to be bothered?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do, but I'm always willing and open for, me. If I say something crazy, I expect for, and I don't hold people accountable for saying something crazy back, because it's just like, all right, cool. And that's my toxic level of trying to push people to like a higher level. It's like, what's up? Let's go.
Yeah, you hyperactive.
Because
But I wanted to make a comment too.
Go ahead.
I think people got to realize that this gender, the gender truce, and a part of the war, the biggest part of the war, is the fact that this is a marketplace, and that these things drive like markets. So like there are people that capitalize on the fact that there are discrepancies or there's disagreement among men and women, and there's money to be made on pushing the narrative of the fuck boy, the toxic woman. Like, these tropes go back hundreds of years, and that people been profiting on them for hundreds and hundreds of years. The Jezebel, the Mammy, the Coon, the you know what I mean? And that's been big money from day one. Like, there have been whole platforms and whole markets that have capitalized on just the most toxic aspects of our relationships towards one another. And people have to understand that when you perpetuate those things, you not only destroy your relationships, but you also play into a larger narrative that people capitalize on. And some people willingly do these things just for the clout or to capitalize on, you know,
Stop
our
talking about
trauma.
sex. Stop talking about all sex. He gonna get mad at you. I jest, but before we let y'all go, before y'all go, I want to ask the queen in the conversation one question.
All right.
What requests would you say you personally have of black men, and what requests would you say black women have of black men when we come to the gender truce?
Honestly, for both parties, honesty. It took 31 years for me to understand that honesty is the key to a lot of things. Like, you just, it will save you. It's a saving grace. If as black men, you say in the beginning, like, if you it will save a lot of time for a lot of people if everyone was just honest with each other. Like, honestly, like, be honest in the beginning of the relationship. Like, what do you want? What is your end goal? What do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, do you want kids? Do you want this? Do you want that? You got to be honest with each other, because if you're not honest and you start a relate, that's how situationships happen. Then that's when you go, oh, he's a fuck boy, and oh, he this, and oh, she this, and she that, and she's so clingy. But that's because y'all weren't honest with each other. Like, she wants a relationship, you don't, or vice versa, and that's how communication happens. So just be honest.
I love that. Thank you.
I'm gonna step out for honesty. Did you have any last words?
No, that was a word. That was yeah.
We appreciate y'all, beautiful people. If you got any other friends, tell them call in. We trying to have a conversation. Because again, if it wasn't COVID, I would love to do this in the larger room.
Oh, yes, we would love to be there too with the libations.
We are going to do this in a larger room eventually, especially when COVID is not a thing. Were you at my birthday?
Yeah.
How we kind of set it up in it? Yeah. So again, I want to do and create those type of environments over, and just again continue to have conversations so that people can chime in, and then we can have other conversations that I think necessarily aren't or shouldn't be privy to online. As again, we're trying to build a community, and unfortunately, we live in a society that is oppressive. So, in building, in terms of being frontward and front facing, I don't have good faith that we can do that without people trying to. But again, we appreciate that conversation. We appreciate that insight, because that is wonderful in the sense that I think it's very simple, and I think it's very impactful. And I think it is one of those things that creates a lot of issues in terms of people being dishonest just up front. And that goes from not only, romantic relationships, but platonic relationships and relationships that go across the board in terms of people just not being honest in what it is that they want, what it is that they want out of it, and how they want to, this is a dirty word in the Black community, use the relationship. We use relationships. It's okay. I don't get offended when people use me.
But people like utilize more.
use me, and this is another thing that I wish that the black community would get out of. And you know, I hate
semantics.
Semantics. Because again, when we talk about relationships and the sustainability of relationships, a lot of discord happens over just semantics.
But you know me as an English person, I hope we're not holding y'all up because we love you being here. but with semantics, when a person starts doing that, I know that person wants to escape accountability. When we got it, they dipped out on us. Oh, we thank you for coming. We loved it. I hope you do whatever you're doing. I hope you do it safely. But going on the conversation of semantics, right? People, we have to get to a point where and I love what the warrior poetess talked about when it comes down to honesty, because I want to get to the point where I posted today with Fyodor Dostoevsky talks about in the brother Karamazov, dishonest with yourself, self-deception. And going back to Shriveism, a lot of us self-deceive based upon that Shriveism. It's like, I deserve to be in a certain place and I deserve to be with a certain person because where my ambitions are, not where I am. And the problem comes in, you disqualify a person who's emotionally sound, who is emotionally capable of enduring and being a good partner in, we both know how high stress lives are, who is able to endure the high stress life that gets us to the next accomplishment. And a lot of people don't pay attention to the time between accomplishment and accomplishment. They think that accomplishment comes after, like you going from first grade to second grade. It's like, no. Once you get into the real world, you may no longer accomplish anything in your life. And accomplishments take great effort. They take great dedication of time. They take great understanding. So I'm going to talk about me personally. I know that I want to be in a romantic relationship with a woman who wants to accomplish greatly in her life. Why? Because I can never make her happy. As we talked about this before, but I also apply it to everyone. I cannot make her as happy as she makes herself. What attracted me to her was her happiness. So if I'm coming into her life and I'm attracting her happiness, or I'm taking away from her happiness, meaning not necessarily this euphoric feeling, but more so the efforts that she puts in to make herself happy, the efforts she put in to make her to accomplish. If I'm diminishing that, even if she doesn't recognize that I'm diminishing that, I have to recognize I'm diminishing that and remove myself from it and tell her it's like, it's not you. It may not even be me, but the way time is set up, I don't have time to help you recover from the things you must go through. I don't have time to recover from the things I go through. And this is, I'll agree with me or disagree with me, but I feel like most fights happen when both parties are tired, either physically or emotionally, or when one party is tired. When one party is tired, physically or emotionally, that's when the fight comes. It's like, I'm tired. And you're not recognizing I'm tired. And because you won't recognize I'm tired, because you won't recognize my dreams, I feel like you're not valuing me. And that's when I see most fights happen. Let's also see when I see most people get defensive. When you tell them, like, you want great things, but you're not willing to put great effort into the things you want. And people really get pissed off at you when you say that. It's like, no, you gotta wake your ass up. Life don't care about you sleeping until 10 a.m. on a Saturday. I wish I could have slept 10 a.m. today, but I had to work. Get up. Wake up. Get up. And as a Black American man, I have had to tell a lot of Black American women that. Get up. You cannot sleep in. Get up. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
I was about to say, I don't want to have a hate group of my own. I can be misanthropic, but my goal, again, and I don't want to dominate the conversation, but my goal, again, is for us to get into a place where we can have these conversations amongst ourselves. White America don't need to know about this shit. I got you.
No, you good. Go ahead.
White America don't need to know about this. And to my white friends, and you know I'm not talking about white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. I'm talking about all of you who are passing. Wink, wink, hint, hint, stump, stump. Some of y'all ain't as white as you think you are, and you're not as white as you passing. We've had those conversations.
It's not for them. It's for us. It's for us to finally, and this is what I feel is true. It is for us as Black Americans to finally build a place where we can be safe. And that should be our homes. And that hurts my heart when and I mean that, I wear my heart on my sleeve proudly. It hurts my heart when Black Americans feel like we can't be vulnerable with one another. Who the WTF? Who, not what, but who the WTF or who the TF knows my life better than a Black American woman? And here's where, and I'm going to get off my soapbox with this one. I've seen a lot of Black American men love when Black American women get frazzled because it gives them power. She's coming after me. She's looking after me. She wants me. She's coveting me. I've seen a lot of Black American men not be comfortable. And this is when I have seen most people be comfortable. They're not comfortable with the woman that's willing to sit on the couch with sweatpants. Her nails ain't done. Her hair ain't done. No makeup on, sitting on the couch. In my mind, it's like, oh, your nails ain't done? Your hair ain't done? Your makeup ain't done? Oh, shit, this is the sexiest opportunity ever because you're not worried about your looks anymore. And so because you're not worried about your looks, this is the best time for me to show you it's never about your looks. It never was about your looks. It's about how you carry yourself. And if men are honest, the most attractive women, women like, oh, I don't care if you got nappy edges. If you're in a grocery store, sweatpants and sweatshirt, flip-flops on, not giving a damn about who's around, and you just being honest in you, that is more appealing than a full beat face. That's just me. It's way more appealing. It's like if I hit the cheeks, then she's not gonna worry about her hair or her nails because can't nothing get damaged. But that's my state of mind. There are dudes out there, her nails ain't done, her hair ain't done, it ain't no makeup. It's like I say males, not men, because that's immature behavior. And I'm gonna call that out. If you sitting there and you telling a woman her hair needs to be done, her nails need to be done, her face need to be beat, like bro, before she even showed up to the date, she done spent $250. You need to be spending money on her.
I personally don't necessarily like
yeah, because you're a savage.
Nails and hair and all that other shit, man. I can do without it. It's not necessarily what's the word? My forte. But again, I understand people need their own regimens outside of what I like. But it is what it is. I'm trying to put this into the thing.
Yeah, Zimba.
People can call in.
Zimba G. I would love to hear your voice because you have been a supporter. You have been rocking with us. Please call in because we need multiple perspectives. I'm not going to speak for the Black Anglo-Saxon, but
no, I do.
Inquisitive Q.
I can't have my voice all the time.
When I say I'm inquisitive,
I'm at least unchallenged.
You like being challenged. I don't like being challenged all the time. Sometimes I'm like Snorlax. I'm like Snorlax. You know how Snorlax is?
No, challenge me.
He's a Pokemon, but he doesn't act like a Pokemon.
I got to work.
I don't need to be challenged all the time.
I want to be challenged.
My brain challenges me all the time. Because my brain is sitting here. No, perfect example, bro. Again, you know my life. You know where I've been. You know where I want to go. You know where you're going. We talked about this before we started filming. I'm not going to introduce an energy, a presence to our social support network that diminishes us.
This is fact.
More importantly, I'm not going to be a part of because I am a cis heterosexual male. Now, I don't like labels because a lot of people hide behind labels, but just for transparency, I am a cis heterosexual male. Some people are non-binary, and I'm a person like, son, humans are complex as fuck.
The labels make it
The
more complex.
No,
for me.
you know what the labels do? It allows people to hide.
I agree. That's why I don't like identity politics.
It allows a lot of people to
people
hide.
hide behind certain stuff, and they shouldn't be able to hide.
They hide.
Because whether you be a woman, a man, a bisexual, or all those things, people can
hide.
be trashed across the whole spectrum. And a lot of people use identity politics to not be held accountable for them being immature.
And predatory.
Very much so.
And I'll say this. Would you agree that past a certain age, your immaturity is no longer immaturity, you're a predator? Because after a while, you didn't practice it enough that you know what you're doing.
Never thought about it.
I didn't think about it until just now, but after a certain point, you're no longer immature, you're a predator.
So let's walk through that line of logic out loud.
I'll walk through that line of logic. Go ahead. No, you start off.
So basically what you're saying to me is, okay, I'm immature at the age of 15, 16, 17.
You don't know the hell you go.
We can go all the way up to like 22, 23. Oh, you're my man. Or yes, sir. We gonna ask you to
unmute
you. Boom. And we need to see you because you're a beautiful young. Hey,
ooh.
This is my man. Ooh. Hey, I know this guy. Hey,
can't hear you.
Hold on, are you unmuted? Turn yourself up, fam.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we get it. So, conversation tonight, the Gender Truce fam. You know, much love. This is my man CA. Everybody.
He show man love.
Everybody who don't know this man, he do a lot of great work for the community, for the government. Hey, we been here. He been sticking with it. But moving on, much love. What you want to contribute to the conversation? Bigger question is, what are you doing to help the gender conversation, and what it is you would ask for black women, as well as black men to do to bring us to a truce so that we can move forward?
Well, first and foremost, Devon, I want to say shout out to y'all, Devon, Quenton, Daquan, like you guys, you know, what you guys put together with Gilded Sages is much needed, and you guys do things with integrity, with due diligence and you know, consistently. So much respect first and foremost. I want to say also, I was in and out of the convo. I was fried, and you know, I was trying to follow, but I've been catching up, and I came in, I think, at like the 24 mark as well, the 24-minute mark as well. And I also want to mention I am a Ethiopian American, right? So this is, I think,
Ethiopians though. I love y'all.
Absolutely, bro, absolutely. But I think y'all this is primarily a discussion about the African American community, to be specific, ADOS or African American, right?
Much love.
And I myself, being a native of DC, I'm on the outside looking in still. Though I grew up amongst African Americans, I'm still like I still see it, but of course y'all live it, right?
Yeah.
So finally, to get to the point, I know the gender truce, you know, it's imperative that, you know, disrespect of either gender shouldn't be broadcasted, as you guys been saying this whole episode, right? Mm-hmm. You know, I think when it comes, when I thought about solutions, I think you guys already hit the nails on the head, and as well as Daquan and the young lady that was with him. You know, it's respect, accountability, honesty. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but it just needs to be reiterated and kind of, you know, mentioned more. Mm-hmm. It's just as simply as just not broadcasting the issues. I think I don't know about other groups, I guess, because I don't tune into them as much. For example, like Asian, Hispanic, Ethiopian, or whoever. Mm-hmm. But it seems like it is known amongst black men and women, you know, the dysfunction.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask you this, as being an Ethiopian American, we having an honest discussion. You know, we've had discussions amongst ourselves prior to, in terms of the difference amongst us. would you say that there are some solutions that you could pull from, per se, your community in terms of how it is that you all navigate in terms of, because again, a lot of African Americans, I can say, look up to continental Africans and their culture.
Not even look up, aspire.
So with that being said, in terms of
Haile
having a
Selassie,
person,
bro.
I know
Ethiopia was never conquered or colonized.
that's great. And so because you are well vested in the culture in terms of, understanding the difference in between the two, is there anything that you see within the culture that you all participate in as Ethiopians that we can, as African Americans, do to protect ourselves under Americans' reign of oppression?
Like, thanks to you, Devon, you put me onto the ADOS movement, right? And for those who know American Descendants of Slavery, right? There's a unique story that African Americans have. And, it affects them to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, whatever some other group is doing, it doesn't, I think it can't be the solution to the African American story. And thanks to the ADOS movement, I'm learning, like, I learned about the quarrels that happen between different groups, African Americans and Ethiopians, Africans in other countries, and I'm learning more about the African American perspective. It's like, I understand that, like you just said, Quentin, like, oh, we never got colonized, but see, it's like, it's just different situations in different countries, different lifestyles. It's just like,
You're editing yourself. Go there. We want you to go there.
You're in the same space, fam.
Go there. You're not
so it's like, no matter what I might say about, oh, this group did this, it's like, but you didn't live our life. You can try to say, okay, we did this, guys. We have our women cook and clean every day. Hypothetically, not that happens, but hypothetically, right?
Yeah, I was about to say you get your head knocked.
Like that does not happen in my household, nor anybody's household that I know, right?
You better get your head knocked.
Just throwing it out, right? It's like, at the end of the day, the point I was trying to make was, whatever Ethiopians might do, it's not like something that is a great solution, right?
Okay. Wait a minute, I got a follow up for that though. Because I love your honest perspective. Because Nigerians, although the continent don't necessarily rock with Nigerians because they're assholes, Nigerians want everyone to emulate them. Now, I'm just speaking about the continent at that point in time. But in pertaining to this conversation, though, because as a person who is on the outside, I'm steeped in it. I can't get out even if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
What is your perspective on a debate that Black American men and women have that informs everybody? Because I am a person, I have seen affluent white people, and I'm just going like, this is the same shit that goes on in my household, but y'all got a little bit more money to hide. So what do you see that Black American men and women in our quote unquote dysfunction brings value to everybody else that they don't want to talk about?
Bro, like, I can just go on Twitter and you can just see the gender war, right? Though I think, like you said, like an affluent white person can cover it up with their money or however they cover it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, it's broadcasted. And like Daquan said earlier, there's money to be made off of this. Like, we know it's obvious dysfunction and people can make money off it, so it's going to be pushed more, right? So I think that, it's just out there. I guess because it's a way to fuck up the Black community for real. Like that narrative.
It's a commodity.
Yeah, it's a commodity. Exactly, it's a commodity versus any other group. I think other immigrants and other groups, not other immigrants, but immigrants in America, they just keep to themselves. Whatever the heck they do is not broadcasted because it's like this whole keeping your tradition thing. And Americans themselves, I think it's just like they just live in life. It's not about, oh, you gotta keep this tradition going. It's just like we live. Their lives are not like, I guess for their lives, it's not no shame to be broadcasted, I think. But for any other immigrant group, they're not trying to put anything bad about their culture on blast. Say it again, bro.
And so what you are, if I'm understanding you right, is that for most other POC groups, the dysfunction of African Americans just appeals as another commodity the same way a white person will commodify it.
Yeah, I think it's easily commodified. Something like Love and Hip Hop, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, that's a TV show. I don't know if that's across the board for other groups. I don't know if it's a Love and Hip Hop on Telemundo or,
That's very accurate.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's a part. It's there in American culture. I could just turn on VH1 and be like, oh, Love and Hip Hop. You know what I mean?
I get you, and I get you, because what I love about this, and I love that outside perspective of talking about America, because America, we can be talking about African American groups because we really want to advance our group, but I can also turn on the housewives of any neighborhood, and we can see the dysfunction of quote unquote affluent families, and that speaks to Americans about how Americans like to commodify pain. Americans love to commodify pain. But I'm hearing from you is like, okay, would you say that, because I think a lot about Kyle Penn when you talk about tradition, would you say that tradition kind of curtails how people act in the public space and how people see themselves in the public space?
I think we lost him.
Did we lose him?
Yeah.
No! No! That was a great conversation. I hate losing great conversations.
That's the tragedy of tech, man.
With people who can articulate themselves and issues.
That's a tragedy of tech.
Please, Simon G, call in again. We waiting for you. I'm not joking. We need you to call in again. We didn't hang up. And I'm not joking, because what's so important about that, and what was so important about the warrior politics calling in and Sima G calling in.
It's a for me, it's a conversation and community.
A conversation, but I know from experience that you have to bring out the value of conversation because everybody walks away with something different. And everyone has different takeaways. And again, we really need to, I want to have symposiums. I want to do this in person so people don't feel pressured because of the cameras here or because they're being recorded. What I got from that conversation, what I got from the warrior to politics as well, is that there is value in Black Americans being on Front Street. And I will have to say this about Black Americans. We are so put in the news so often that in our minds, when we see an opportunity, we run to it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is we need to get to the point where we're seeing opportunity and we are going to the point we're going to the point in which we are pushing ourselves. Here we go. We back.
My apologies, fellas. My apologies. My phone died.
You good?
Hey,
I'm on the laptop now.
You know, the tech is the tech, man. The tech, hey, we can't. Humans over tech.
Every day. As you were saying. As you were saying, I'm listening.
Oh, my fault, Quentin. And I think where we left off, I think the point that you were just making is how it's dysfunction in the Black community is a commodity. And from somebody that's of an Ethiopian American in America, it's easy to see that on Twitter, on Love and Hip Hop, on a rap video.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's like, that's why it's so easy for me to kind of see it from the outside looking in. I can't say that for Hispanic groups, white groups, Ethiopian groups, even as much. It's like, you know what I mean? And let me also mention, being a person around a lot of African Americans, I look to y'all to understand America, right? Because it's like I'm still of that group, but I'm still Americanized, and
Mm-hmm.
like even now. So I always go back to the ADOS group. Like, we emulate African American culture to the core, like myself included, from the way I try to talk, the way I try to dress, this and that, like you name it. More than I try to emulate white culture. That's American culture to us is African American culture, like across
Wow,
the board.
I love it so much.
Because it's the stuff, it's here.
Right, and it's around us. Like it's an entertainment. It's
Are
the
we
way you
more
dress.
accepting of us?
So like,
We're more accepting, and I'm gonna let you jump in. We're more accepting, and we don't understand it, but we have created a standard. African American vernacular. We unfortunately, because America
we love
pushes
ourselves.
out, and again, this is where I'll say I appreciate you, CA, because I can say to people who may be viewing that this man is dead serious when he says that he listens. We've had a number of conversations
he puts in
of him just reaching out and just being able to say,
thank you for the support. I am not joking. That support is 10,000 appreciated.
and it's going to continue.
Because he asked for the perspective. Like, we met at work, and it's just like, I want to better understand, whether it be the election, whether it be all of these different things that are going on, how you all have managed to navigate them, but also why do you all navigate them in this way? And I think that's the honest conversation that we've been able to have. And that, like, look, everything that we do, some of the things that people see that we do, it's toxic. Like, we've had the genuine conversation. Like, I know I do toxic stuff, but have gotten to this point because this is where I come from, this is what it is, and this is what my people have been through, and so on and so forth. And being able to, again, if you're a POC and a white person, I think that's a good model and a mold in terms of what it takes to be an ally. Like, not necessarily just being able to hop in front of what African Americans are doing, but really sitting and listening and like, I'm going to follow lead on what it is. Because these people understand not only what's going on now, but what has brought us to now.
I got you.
And so that's where, it's hard to get a relationship like consistent with me. But I can say that, like, respectfully and genuinely, it's like, how is this working? I don't necessarily understand it. I understand this. I know this, but help me kind of understand the larger macro talking points of what's going on here, because I also have felt the brunt of American blackness, even though I'm not American black, which is a lot of the things that people go through. Is like, what is this thing that I'm feeling, but I don't quite understand it.
I heard that.
And that's where he's honest.
I get that.
And now I'll be like,
I get that.
I got you.
I get that.
But what I would say to that is, in terms of, again, I love and appreciate that you respect it. But what I would say is that what you've been able to offer me on the other side of that,
of you as a senior, right?
Exactly, as in CA, as in being from a different culture, is being able to take tidbits of things that aren't dysfunctional, things that come from stability.
So uplifting is
things that come from stability. As you know, most people call me elitist because I want to uphold standards. But again, we look to those things, and I understand what he's saying in terms of I hope that people take from what he said was that, like, look, we have to begin to have these conversations amongst ourselves and model and create a new model that doesn't exist yet because we are different people and come from a different experience and come from a different set of atrocities.
I got you. Now that's where I wanted him to jump in on is like, what is your honest and true perspective? And I'm not putting you on jump street. Please don't jeopardize yourself in any kind of way. What I'm hearing from you and what I see from you is that you are a true ally. CA, am I saying that right?
Yes, sir. Correct.
You're not calling me sir, but what I'm hearing from you, and I have seen amongst white Americans as well as other immigrant groups, being a true ally. And now what I'm interested in hearing from you is like, what is it? Because it's not only just, I would say, other parts of the sub-Saharan Africa, not just West Coast African nations or East Coast African nations. We also have British blacks who look to African Americans as this is what it means to be black in America. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, as being a black person, I take it as a frivolous thing. It's like, bro, we come from slaves, and I've been to Zambia. I've had cabbage and chicken and eaten it like it came out of grandma's pot. So when you literally go from, I'm from Congress Heights, DC to Zambia, Africa, and your taste buds are telling you this is home. Mm-hmm. And I don't think most African Americans or Black Americans have had this experience. Immigrant groups know what I'm talking about. When your taste buds, when your body say this is familiar, although it comes from an unfamiliar source, it's a totally different experience. That concreted for me that the moment we got off them ships, we was like, fuck that shit. I'm gonna keep doing what I was doing anyway. That's where the thug in me comes from. It's like, yeah, you called us slaves, but we never act like slaves. The whole time we was picking cotton and picking cane and everything else, we was in our heads plotting how the fuck we was getting out. That's where the thug in me comes in. It's like, yo, I come from a group of people that's like, no matter what you do to me, I'm gonna make it.
This is true. But to your question to him, just so he can hear it without the full context, so he can answer it to your point. No, go ahead. Just reiterate it.
But because as an ally, what would you ask of Black Americans? How can Black Americans not only, we can only help our own case, but what is it about, I'm taking your conversation in consideration too, what is it about Black Americans that draws people?
Well,
because we are dysfunctional.
First, I think when people come to America, they buy into that commercial of the American dream. It's just like, that's the first thing. I think they're not even aware of African American culture. So I want to start there. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody knows America's the land of opportunity. But I think, now I'm born and raised here. Mm-hmm. When a person comes here, they're usually unaware of the African American experience. They're unaware of the history, and they pick up at, I think a lot of them came in, I guess, the 80s. Well, a lot of African immigrants came in the 80s. I'm not sure about other groups. So the people that immigrate here, I think they're insensitive and not really in the business of helping African Americans, when they get here. They're just focused on their own agenda, right?
Yes.
But their offsprings, us, when we're around African Americans, we're obviously the same skin color, but there's a distinct difference in us, though, right? Mm-hmm. So I think African Americans have persevered, right? From slavery to Jim Crow to redlining, everything that they had to encounter. They're survivors, like you just said, Quentin. Like, they're survivors, and they've been through so much, and from the many inventions through the times of slavery and Jim Crow to just purely surviving, and the different places that they succeeded in, whether it's entertainment, sports, having judges, politics, you name it.
Mhm.
So basically, it's people that been through such a difficult time, and to persevere. I think that's what makes that's what I think other people you know try get attracted to the African American community.
Well,
So that perseverance.
it's
I
also,
think so. Yeah.
but we also cocky about it. We don't necessarily just persevere. We go like, yeah, nigga, I did it anyway. That's how Black Americans are. It's like, yeah, you told me no, but I did it anyway.
That's
What?
that's the
Is that not how we act?
the air, yeah, that comes with, I guess, overcoming, but that level of toxicity too that comes with overcoming in an oppressive environment.
And I think that's on a deeper level. That's when people really figure out. But I think just being a person, a Black person that immigrate that has roots in Africa, you just see Black people on TV or Black people around you. You just you're gonna just gravitate towards them. You know what I mean?
Oh, that makes sense. So it's like, so you can kind of see. So what I'm hearing is that, okay, I'm not necessarily a Black American, but I am not treated as a white American. Is that what I'm hearing? It's like, I don't
Absolutely.
get the white access, but I don't have the Black plight. So it sounds like a third culture kid to a certain degree. It's like, I have a third culture. I'm not necessarily of my birth. I would say I'm not necessarily of my heritage nation. And I believe we say that in America is like, I have a heritage nation because we have a lot of Chinese people here. We have a Chinese name and an American name. And I'm just thinking about the diasporas, not the immigrants, the diaspora narratives in America. But what I'm hearing is like, I'm not necessarily of the Black American plight, but I don't have the white access.
Yeah, but you know what? Now that I think about it, I think it's just wherever you're placed. Like I'm in DC. DC was Chocolate City, and
Yeah.
it's just Black people around me, right? But I think an Ethiopian American who's in freaking Potomac, yeah, he's not gonna uh, be considered white or have that all the social capital and all the benefits, but they're still more. They relate to probably white people more if they're in that group.
Oh,
But no matter what, though, they still can't. They're not gonna have white privilege. Kind of.
That's your barrier. That's your glass ceiling.
And I think that's where us as Black Americans can really form that coalition. And then we can have those honest conversations. And like POC, we have those honest conversations about the diasporas in America. It's like, we talk about white legacy, but we need to talk about the legacy of different peoples. Like, look, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, and I'm saying white Anglo-Saxon Protestants for a reason, have created an economic system in which they benefit. And then we, as of everybody, as non-white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, don't come together and go like, look, y'all done rigged the rules to the point where you exploiting everybody labor. You exploiting Native American labor, you exploiting Ethiopian labor, you exploiting ADOS labor, you exploiting Chinese labor. You've been exploiting labor since exploiting labor was exploiting labor. And I believe that's when we'll make a much stronger political argument. We're getting rid of things like legacy admissions inside of Ivy League schools. Why are we worried about affirmative action when we don't talk about people getting in based upon where their parents went?
Because you have the other side of that where POCs are attacking affirmative action.
Oh yeah, well, that's most South Asians though. South Asians really do attack the affirmative action thing. But I do got one more question for C before he goes.
Go ahead.
Where? Because I don't want to put you on Front Street, but I am curious.
It's cool, bro.
Where's the gender battle that you see? I need to rephrase it. Where's the gender battle non-ADOS or non-American? Where does the gender battle exist without Black people?
Just generally.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Quinn, because I actually had, I think, a question or two myself.
Okay.
I took notes because I wanted to make sure I was prepared before I jumped on.
Please ask.
You know what? In all honesty, specifically, once again, being of Ethiopian descent, right? Ethiopian men going back to the country, not in the States, they have extreme privilege. So the country is like majority, I think, I don't know if it's 50-50 Muslim Christian. There's some churches where women aren't allowed in part of the churches. And I'm trying to word this as nicely as possible about Islam, but I think that with Islam, there's obviously for men and women, there's a lot of differences with how they, do things, right? So with that being said, it's just like men have a lot of privileges in Ethiopia, I think, and they benefit a lot from women not having as much, I wouldn't say rights, but I'm trying to find the right way to put it.
Access, leeway.
Yeah, like, I think the most simple way to put it is that they're usually the ones cooking and cleaning and not having opportunities to succeed in that.
Got you.
In that way of life. So.
Got you.
So that trickles down to being in the States, right? So that kind of way of living is kind of expressed at homes of my parents' generation.
Got you.
So it's still that kind of vibe still lingers when it trickles down to our generation. And it's really just mainly, women being traditional, guys having just, benefits that women usually don't have.
Got you.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm open to your questions. I don't know about if he had any follow-ups, but I'm open.
No, I'm ready for the questions.
Bro, you nursing a beer. Can I have that?
So like me and Devon had like numerous conversations, right? And I think in February or January, Devon, before all this stuff hit, we had like a convo. I think it was related to gender relations as well. And I think one thing that
it was marriage. It was marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, indeed, it was marriage. And I think one thing that stood out to me was when Devon said, I think it's going to be a lot more women taking care of guys, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What's y'all take on that? Where it's like, does it look like where it's going to be women going to be like the breadwinners? Yeah. And, like how do y'all see that?
So my take on that is basically, as I'll reiterate.
Give me that bed that's open.
Oh, no, this is gone.
So
my take on that is that I'll reiterate in the sense that what happens is when you push for economic access, equal access, and when they push for that further and further and further, the dynamics of the economy changes in terms of the labor force. And so as women push for that, I think that they also have to be realistic in that when you do that, you have to take on the burden of what it means to be the breadwinner. Because when you talk about historical traditions and how we come into this place of what we quote unquote call the purse strings, we have to understand that women only have received their rights as late of African Americans. Women have received their rights on par in America with the likes of African Americans. When we talk about traditions like marriage and when we talk about the economics of things, most of that, when we talk about especially European nations as well as African nations, that is dominated by the male. When we have women in the 21st century who are seeking equal access and are getting that equal access, kudos. I have no issue with that. None. Zero. What I am saying is that you have to accept the consequences on the other side of that. You have to accept that if I am going to be the one making 150, 120, 200K, you can't necessarily use hypergamy on the back end of that, because when you talk about the average male, the average Black American male is making 30 under 30K.
Nothing.
When you talk about the average male in general, you're talking about the top 10% of men in terms of making that amount of money. So if you are making that, you unfortunately, even though you may not necessarily want to, will have to come to the understanding that, look, I am the dominant. I was having a conversation with one of my lady's friends. It's like, she is that go-getter. You might have to understand that you need a beta male or a male that is going to fit into your vision.
I don't like the word beta and alpha, but
I get it. That's why I say in terms of,
I get you.
You gotta fit. You gotta find a man who's willing to succeed and fall into your vision because you are the lead in that way, and that's just what it is. And I've used those terms just to basically for anybody who's watching, so that you can understand that you're gonna have to find somebody who falls in line.
I hate breaking the seal.
I'm not against that.
Mm-hmm.
Women who are making an amount of money, you can't be against that.
They can, but not realistically.
Yeah, you can be,
but not realistically.
But if you are, you might end up alone for forever. Because again, I don't see the economy changing anytime soon in terms of their access.
But that's because domestic work is being undervalued. And
I agree.
I'm gonna jump in here before you follow up with your next question. I'm a child of divorce, right? My parents were married. I have boomer parents. I am boomer hooked. So what that means is, as Black Americans, I come from a high achieving mother. My mother got her associates in the 80s in computer science, before women were in computer science. Mm-hmm. So she had that higher income. But what I have learned is that high income means high stress. And what's not valued about a lot of women's domestic work is how much they create a space for men to recover. If you don't respect how much that woman is putting work and effort, unpaid work and unpaid effort, into how much it takes for you to recover from your high stress, your high income job, then those women on the other side don't understand what it takes for a man to create an environment where she can decompress, she can recover. So instead of being inside of a corporate environment, because you're most likely in corporate if you're making any income, in a corporate environment for 1 or 2 years, she's in a corporate environment in which she can make it 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years to get to that corner office. Because when you say fall in line, and this is where I don't like the beta male thing is that what a lot of people don't understand is that partner is the silent coach. We all know, and especially those who work, when you go into the work environment, you dealing with a bunch of people who are basically athletes that want to get to the position you want to get to. So you kind of competing. You can get collaboration and cooperation. But when you come home, you kind of drained from work. If you don't respect that person or that partner that's putting in the work to make you comfortable enough to go back into work, then you are doomed to be alone. And I'll say, here's the difference. Women are more tolerant of, I wouldn't say disrespect. Women are more tolerant of people being immature than men are tolerant of people being immature.
Hold on, say that again, Quentin. I heard you, but I kind of got to digest it.
Women are more tolerant of people being immature than men than other people being immature. For a fact, women will tolerate. Hey, this is how you know a woman is tolerating an immature man. She does just like this.
But this is where this is where the women gotta let us step in, because I agree with you 100%. Mm-hmm. My tolerance be low. This is where the woman gotta understand, like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna let a motherfucking man come in here who ain't got the high level tolerance, but also got the physical strength. Because as you know, the stakes are changed. It's like, exactly. Go ahead. Let me get up in there. Because again, when they come, I don't got time for the immaturity either, because we out here on missions. And guess what? I dare you to challenge me, because please, let's go. I'm not the woman. If you beat me, you just beat me. But we gonna keep going.
I got you.
Because again, women, if you want to be protected, let the crazy niggas.
Let the goons in.
Just slide in and be like,
So what you basically saying is like, women, let the men who know how to be angry and when to be angry.
All day, every day.
I'll with you on that because it's like I get to fuck somebody up.
Because
Oh, we gonna fuck some shit up today.
Because again, a lot of people don't understand is like, no, the anger and the rage, that's part of the emotional spectrum. Most young boys are that. That's why we have the untamed violence. You need men who understand how to manage it, reconcile with it, and also utilize and maximize it.
I got you. And I'm gonna say this before, because I want your second question to jump in. What a lot of women envision happens between father and son relationships, I think is fights. What they don't see in father-son relationships is when the father gets patient with the young man. It's like, I know you being stupid. I know you being arrogant. Life is gonna fuck you up in a way I can't. So I, as a father, I am here to heal your boo-boos more than I am. It's true. I am here to more heal what life has done to you than to actually punish you. If we real, most nurturing men, we'll go like, no, life is gonna fuck you up more than I can, and I don't want to hurt you. So you had another question, right?
Right, and I don't want to go over time for y'all. Like,
You good.
I kind of got a follow-up question and another question besides that. So, and I appreciate y'all's feedback. It was definitely dope.
Great. You good? Do you? I'm trying.
Now, I don't know if you might remember, Devon. You shared a Harvard Business Review article about, I think, the difficulty that women face of getting men to listen to them, if I'm not mistaken. Does that ring a bell?
Not necessarily, but go ahead and I'm gonna listen to your line of logic.
And I was trying to find the article just now, and I remember commenting on it too on Facebook. But I think it's basically what the article was saying is that it's hard to get men to do what women want them. Hold on. I'm sorry. It's hard for women to get men to do what they want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying my best to find the article, but I think that kind of plays into the convo of what we were just talking about, where when a woman makes more money, how she kind of has to kind of assume the role of the person in charge, you know? But
yeah, because what happens is again, the energies are flipped in that way because you have to understand that you are now the person who are having to be the assertive, dominant person. You are having to be the person who has to manage. You will have to now become the person who is accepting, as Quentin was talking about, accepting the disrespect. Because a lot of what women don't see on the other side of manhood is that a lot of the times you are accepting a lot of disrespect, which is in a large part where he talks about, that escape and being able to recover. I'm able to come back to you. You nurture me into this space because you are the person who not only allows me to be human, you are the person who doesn't require me to meet this standard that really a lot of professionals, I would say, are trying to meet a very unreal standard in terms of who it is that
the management,
not even the management, but who it is that they can be.
I got
with the time given that they can be. And so, it's very hard. The same way on the other side of that, the men who are leading, it's very hard to get women to fall in line. I can tell you for even myself, it's like, I don't mind doing all of those things, but getting a person to, we can use women, we can use kids. Again, kids don't really care about who you are outside of them being your parent. It's just like your mom and your dad. They don't care if you're the CEO of the largest company and you got to deal with assholes all day. The same way your wife or your husband does it. That's their relationship to you. So it goes across the whole spectrum. And so what happens is whoever is that person who's going out every day fighting society, has to understand that it comes with the territory. If you want to be that breadwinner, if you want to be that person, that entrepreneur, that person that's just going like, I'm going to defy the odds of society, you have to accept man, woman, transgender, bisexual, whatever, cis, non-binary, whatever. You have to accept that you're going to be hit with tirades, not only from outside of your home, but inside of your home, that you aren't going to feel like it's fair. Point blank, period. Because it's not fair, but it comes with the territory. It's not easy, but it comes with the territory. And on the other side of that, I would say it is rewarding. I feel good that I could pay for certain stuff and take care of my son and take care of my girl and be able to add value to other people and coach other people. I feel good about those things, even though sometimes it's like, man, y'all nerds.
You know what's scary about that? Is I'm strictly egalitarian. Like I was saying earlier, I can never make a woman happier than she can make herself. What I mean by being egalitarian in this sense, and when you talk about fall in line, it's that terminology. I'm not falling in line for shit. You need me. Because if I don't put in the work, there's not ego. No, you need me. No, hold on. Let me speak on it. No, you need me. Here's why. Mm-hmm. I will leave your ass and see how long you stay in that work environment.
But a person asking you to fall in line, that's for me.
It's not ego. Semantic. Listen, no, it is, because listen to how you program in your brain. You create a hierarchy.
It is a hierarchy.
It isn't a hierarchy.
In family, there's a hierarchy.
There isn't. There are two leads. If I don't put in the work into myself to make sure that to help take care of you, you fall down in your performance at work. Why? Because the performance in myself has fallen. You are a lead of shit. And that's where people who work are arrogant. You aren't shit. That's where people who work are very arrogant. It's like, you need to understand this. Those people at your job treat you like that. When you walk in this household, it's about everybody. I don't care if you paid for the light bill, because guess what? When your ass was sick, was it your boss taking care of you, or was it me? When these kids that you love to parade, when they were sick, was the boss taking care of them, or me? I'm not falling in line, because I have my own visions as an adult. This is when you say fall in line, that's military. That's hierarchy. I'm not your child. And what I mean by this is that that's your vision. And I have decided as an individual to support you in your vision, not to accept your vision, to support you in. Think of agency. When you say fall in line, you remove my agency. And this is where a lot of people get shit fucked up. I still have an agency. I am still an autonomous being. So with people, this is why you have to get this in your head. I'm speaking as an English major, not you in particular, you proverbially. I gotta say that for the camera, because people love to like, oh, they having a fight.
No, like, nigga, come at me, nigga.
No, what you gotta get in your head is that you're creating a social hierarchy when you say fall in line and you think you are to lead. Motherfucker, you ain't shit. Because guess what? I know when you weak. I know how you weak. And this is when they say a woman's scorn. I know you weak. I know how you weak. I know where you weak. I know how you weak. I know where you weak. And I know where everything falls off. I have your weaknesses in my back pocket. I know every trump card about you that you don't know, because I observe you in ways you don't observe yourself. So I'm not falling in line. You give the respect to your partner of uplifting you. You gotta recognize there's a lot of motherfuckers out here. There's a lot of people who have the ego in their head that literally believe that they have the power to tell another person how to be, how to live, how to dress, how to move, and they need to be checked ASAP. I'm speaking as a man. I'm speaking as a man to other men, like, nigga, check yourself. Because I can ruin your whole life by just getting in your girl's ear about how you disrespecting her, you neglecting her, and I can just take all of your money.
So let me ask you this.
Because you're not mentally stable. You're not emotionally stable. She's the one that's emotionally stabilizing you.
And this is why it's semantics for me in terms of...
I'm listening.
I understand the connotation that can come with that, but this is where relationships.
Connotation is how you frame it in your
This
head.
is why relationship, and I can see that to some point because I'm
Mhm.
picky with words in that way for that reason. And I think this is where good faith comes in. Going back to
That's
the
trust,
overall
yeah.
conversation in terms of good faith and trust, is that when somebody is saying fall in line, as you know, those industries that you name can be highly abusive. They are highly abusive. I think if that abuse comes in along with that, I can see your point. And I'll say that because I've used the terminology and I can hear your point in saying that maybe I shouldn't use that terminology in terms of maybe the person, maybe people
Not
aren't
the terminology.
perceiving.
It's a framework. I get you.
I got you. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe people are perceiving it that.
I got you.
And I'm not necessarily aware, even though
Mhm.
I'm not necessarily using it in that way, because when I use it, I'm thinking more so about
Because you have submitted to your own goals.
I submitted to my own goals, and I submitted to the people who are helping me get to those goals.
Yes.
In terms of, you know me, I'll work with a motherfucker all day, every day. Like,
You know me, I'll walk the fuck away. Like,
I'm irritating me, but I'm
that
here
dude.
with you.
I'm a veteran.
And that's why for me,
Like, I'm not
fall in
going.
line is like, look, you get behind me and I got you.
I get you.
Because you getting behind me comes with me as the shield.
But you're talking about someone being a co-pilot or a tail gunner. You're talking about someone that's on the same ship, on the same plane.
Yeah.
We have to understand that a lot of men really think of themselves as the chief. Let me take this call. No problem. What I'm saying is, and I'll speak to you at this point in time, is like, I feel like a lot of men take it that they are the ones in charge. And a lot of men take it as that they are the ones who dictate the future and don't consider other people's goals, dreams, and considerations. And what I'm challenging with the fall in line rhetoric is I'm really challenging the psychology that says because I pay the bills, I tell other people how to live. That's what I'm challenging.
And I get that, Quinn, and also I think it relates to just how things have been historically. Women, you know, thriving is kind of a new thing now. I think I don't know how long ago like women started just progressing.
World War II,
But
America.
it's like I think that's very true. Where it's just like as guys, we do have an ego problem when it comes to wanting to control things. And it's funny. Oh, I know one thing I wanted to talk about when y'all talked about having toxic hate group, having friend groups can be hate groups.
Yeah, gotcha.
And I'm gonna kind of try to bring this in where it's kind of like us guys be caring about women's body counts.
Mm-hmm. A lot of guys do.
And that I think falls in line with the hate group thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like control, ego. It's like, yo, her body count is too high, so I don't want to deal with her. You can't control any other human being.
You can't. But my thing is with the body count, and this is where I'm kind of that outlandish guy. Is like, look, I'm the guy. If she had 999 dudes and she committed to me as 1,000, she didn't met 999 failures when it came down to her emotional intimacy. Okay. Dudes got to get into their mindset that literally the skin cells of her vagina have changed. Her mind has changed. And I think it comes from a lot of guys' place of not being able to truly connect emotionally with women because they're afraid of women to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of they're afraid not as in, oh my gosh, she scares me. I think a lot of men are intimidated by their own ideas and ideals of women. Does that make any sense? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like they'll put her on a pedestal, and so what happens is, and for me, what happens is I see a lot of guys get into emotionally damaging relationships because they want to put women on a pedestal. And they'll have women that come along and go, that's not real, that's not realistic. I'm more like you in my day-to-day needs than I am of the ideal women that you're thinking of. So what happens is that a lot of guys will dismiss that woman that's honest and go for that woman that puts herself on that pedestal. And the woman that puts her on a pedestal is because, again, I've been to a lot of girl nights. I know what it happens. She had to learn how to get on the pedestal. And that comes with the body count. We don't give women the respect that they also have to learn how to engage with men.
This is true.
We don't give them that respect, and we rope the body count into that. It's like we don't give her the respect that her body count may be that body count because she didn't know who she liked, what she liked. That body count could be there because she was going through something and she decided. And here's the thing most guys don't get because they don't get enough opportunities. Sex can become a bad habit when you have opportunities to have sex.
Yes.
So she may have been coping through other people.
This is true.
And so guys look at the body count, but they don't see why the body count is there. It's like if the body count is high because you just a naturally sexual person and you like your sexuality and you like to express it, cool. And then my question with that woman is like, are you monogamous or non-monogamous? Because you like promiscuity, you like sex, so how are you monogamous? How do you see monogamy? But when you have, and I don't think we talk about this enough, when you have someone who has been sheltered, because we over shelter women and they don't get to explore as much as we get to explore, or you also have women who have been overexposed to sexuality and have explored life through sexuality, we don't give them the space to come back and say, well, you know what? I was being immature. I had a lot of sexual partners, one, because I didn't know who I was, what I wanted. I was just seeking attention. And as a guy, we got to get to the point of maturity of going like, okay, her body count is an indicator of one thing, but it's not an indicative of who she is as a person. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes perfect sense to me. Because it goes into a larger conversation around, like we were having earlier, in terms about not only are you accumulating bodies, but how are you accumulating those bodies? And again, because we come from toxic environments, why are you accumulating those bodies? And those are the honest, vulnerable conversations that we have to have moving forward. But what I will say in terms of this, because I have to move out to be able to get something that I paid for.
Gotcha.
What I want everybody to do is I want to, thank you, CA, for calling over to have a discussion with us. Again, everybody who is watching, who has watched, we appreciate y'all for having the discussion. Please come out. Please like the video, share the video, comment, call in when you can, because those small little things helps us go a long way in terms of building the capacity that we want so that we can have conversations advantageous for everybody, not just us specifically. And when I say us specifically, I mean me, you, for like own material, like own material sales, but like larger group, definitely. But with that being said, I want to say thank you to everybody tonight. We're going to get around to having another discussion. This sounds like this was good.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully more people will call in. We can have a part 2 and push that out maybe
this
like a week
conversation.
Yes, because I think this is much more needed for, more time in terms of, unpacking this and getting down to the nitty gritty of what it is that we need to do as a community overall and how people position us as well as our disposition in the overall conversation of it. But we want to thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you, Quan.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
To his guests as well.
Warrior Poetess.
And again, we will catch y'all next time. Thank y'all for coming out for another Gilded Sages and Eavesdrop. And again, enjoy the rest of your night. Hopefully you got some libations. And you all go ahead. No, definitely. We're going to catch y'all next time. And we appreciate y'all for coming out and showing love and sharing love with us. And we only here to reciprocate. So y'all enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
See y'all later, bro.
Yes, sir.